Can you peel back the layer, peel back the curtain of what that was like as Ohio State and really every other college football team is now living in this mini NFL model this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, not fun to cover, but that pales in comparison to actually being involved in these conversations with Bo Jackson, which I was not, of course. They're the people that were in there, Bo Jackson, his camp, Mark Pantoni, Carlos Loughlin, Ryan Day, everybody else. Like, this is not, fun for anyone. I know that, Bo Jackson absolutely deserved a raise based on what he was making in year one and the way that he ascended the depth chart to become the starting tailback for a team that went undefeated in the regular season, and he ran for 1,000 yards. We all know what Bo Jackson did. He deserved more, and he had every right to go use that leverage to get a better deal. Ohio State, at the same time, was more than willing to give him one, but not...
I feel like they've been willing to always go back to the negotiating table if you've been able to prove yourself on the field, which is something that Bo Jackson absolutely did this season.
He did. And, the part about, having to sit down, it's not as if you just immediately go in and you ask for whatever amount, and that's the end of the conversation. Ohio State just says, yep, that sounds great. Here's a blank check.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we say this a lot. Some people like it. Some people hate it. Some people understand it. Some people don't ever want to. The amount of money is not limitless for Ohio State. I know that there is not a hard salary cap, but there is a limit to what Ohio State can and will pay. And it's not just about one particular player. What Ohio State, what it was trying to do and the amount of money that it wanted to stick to, that it had budgeted for someone in Bo Jackson's situation, if they surpass that, then the potential repercussions are what you may be able to get out of the transfer portal and what you may have to spend to retain Isaiah West, who is almost certainly going to be having a near even workload with Bo Jackson next year. That's to Bo Jackson's. That's to Bo's benefit, and it's to Isaiah West's benefit and the sake of the Ohio State offense overall. So all these things are connected. If it was one negotiation with one player who did what Bo Jackson did in a vacuum, that'd be really easy. But that's not the reality, and it's not the way that it's going to work. And none of this to say, and in my feeling on this, no matter what outcome was reached, and some people could tell this and some people, couldn't. I had written a lot of this column that I wrote on Friday about the negotiations, and it stands up no matter what decision he made. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was written assuming that he was going to leave. And while I took liberty to drama class on Friday, I had to make some edits and some changes.
That's not going for her.
Great. She's got a vivid imagination that really helps for drama class. But so I'm sitting outside that on Friday afternoon and updating this story as the Bo Jackson saga comes to a close. I think that both parties, and Bobby Carpenter put it this way, that like both of them should be a little bit unhappy. That means it was a good negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
I think both can come away feeling like very good and very happy about the way that it went. Ohio State did not lose its starting running back, a homegrown prospect, someone that it is counting on once you get to August of next year. Now, he's injured right now. That's another part of this piece of the negotiation that I think is relevant. He's going to miss spring camp, where we understand, with an upper body procedure that he had done at the end of the season. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be working to get something done, but Ohio State was at the table, and so let's find a resolution that we both like. And Bo Jackson had a number in mind. I think there was compromise on both sides. It took maybe more compromise than anyone anticipated as the week went along, because by Thursday night, and after you and I had talked on the Buckeye Show,
it was fever pitch.
It very much felt like a line in the sand had been drawn by both sides. And then the next day, cooler heads prevailed. It did feel like a separation could potentially happen, and it did not. And I think that Bo Jackson's representation, Ohio State, Mark Pantoni, Ross Bjork, everybody involved deserves credit for that, because at the end of it, the one thing that we said about everything that's going on in the transfer portal, and when we've talked about the plan and the philosophical adjustment and NFL-sized roster, the only starter, technically, that Ohio State has lost to the transfer portal this offseason is Tegra Shabola. That was a negotiation if there really wasn't one, but Ohio State would have walked away by not meeting what, let's say, Kentucky was offering. They would have been comfortable in that, and they knew that they had...
Or maybe not even offering at all. I don't know how many players that they do that with, but I'm almost certain that it's more than zero.
Correct. So, and definitely for some of the other players that are in the portal right now, we don't have to get into that or identify who they are, but that's that is a realistic outcome in some of these situations. But the point is, they didn't want to lose Bo Jackson. They were doing everything that they could within the structure and reason of what they need to accomplish in the big picture. Both sides were able to get that done. So now we're still in a situation as we sit here on Monday night. The window is open till Friday. Not saying that to create panic or concern or float any other possibility.
And again, to your point, and I just want to make this clear for everybody, when Austin and me or anybody that you hear talk about the window being open until Friday, that is a deadline for players to get into the transfer portal. There is no deadline, to my knowledge, for a team to extract a player from the portal and sign them for their services. Like that deadline, I don't know, it exists maybe somewhere down the road, but it is not Friday. What you were talking about is the deadline for players to enter the transfer portal.
Yeah, it does get tricky. After the window is closed and after school is back in session, you still do, at the end of the day, have to be a student athlete. You have to be academically eligible. Spring camp, it seems like, by the time you're getting to March, like those are the dates that you're not going to want or need to miss. But, as we're sitting here right now, it's like there are not Ohio State starters, people that they had penciled into that first team unit for next season that have left. They have retained the starters. They've made good faith efforts to do so across the board. In, knock on wood, Mark Pantoni and his staff will get that done all the way through Friday. I think, Bo Jackson is the closest that they have come to this getting out of control and giving us a different conversation to talk about. But part of the reason that Ohio State could say this is the amount and this is what's going to spend and this is what the market is like for running backs and, is that they had plan B, plan C, plan D potentially lined up to go do that. Now, they wanted to execute plan A, and ultimately they did.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, to your point, there were plans in place. And I'm sure that there were plans in place from a Bo Jackson perspective as well.
Well, it'd be really surprising if he did not come to the table with, that offer or any offer or dollar amount would have had to come from somewhere.
Yes, it would have. What do you say? What are you saying?
I don't know about that. But someone somewhere was telling him that amount of money could be available.
And I just want everybody out there, too, to realize, I know that the Bo Jackson one got very close. It's the closest one that we've seen from a returning starter for Ohio State. These are daily things that everybody is dealing with over at the Woody. It's not just a Bo Jackson situation. Any returning starter coming back to Ohio State, and really, if you want to go bigger, like you go to any other college football program around the country, who's a Power 4 team and is trying to retain the efforts of your starters, these are conversations that are ongoing. And so I think, Austin, when you see, across national news, like players who are starters, either they're looking for just a different change of scenery, different outcome, better draft path, better chance to win a championship path, whatever it may be personally, but also that, okay, if someone's in the portal as a proven starter, it means that maybe the monetary value wasn't there from the team, so they pulled ripcord and had to get out of here. Yeah. But it's not just a Bo Jackson thing. All these conversations, you talk about good faith contract negotiations, and that's what it is, trying to retain the efforts of your starters or really whoever you identify on your roster at this point that you want to continue having their services. It's something that is constantly going on right now.
Yeah, and in the midst of it going on at this moment, it's frustrating. It's tiring. Every single player on every roster in the country theoretically is a free agent. Now, Damon Williams found out that that's not the case because some of these contracts, as Washington pointed out to their
he could have been a free agent.
Well, he could have bought his free agency, or Lane Kiffin could have bought his free agency. Mm-hmm. But those contracts, and I think that's one of the shifts, one of the lessons I say all the time to you, Beamer, like, collective bargaining is the only way forward. You have to have transparency in these contracts. You have to be able to enforce them. You have to have rules that are across the sport. There have been steps made towards that. This example with Damon Williams at Washington, I think, is a perfect example of that. He signed a deal and 4 days later tried to go in the transfer portal, and they said, no, that's not going to happen. This is your signature, correct? Yeah, okay. It says you would owe $4 million if you leave. Is that what you would
enforceable now?
Is that what you'd like to do? That they are able to enforce that stuff. Now, there's another road and another thread we could pull about would it stand up to non-compete challenges in court. I don't know. But that's, again, pointing back to that same direction of collective bargaining needs to be adopted and then enforced. But, and maybe Ohio State will be more proactive about getting some of these deals done. And I'm not saying that they weren't, but clearly not all of them were done because they had negotiations going on with Bo Jackson that we were privy to and aware of last week. If you could get some of that done in December, and then that alleviates some of the mad dash in January, great. I think there's a lot of things that Ohio State is, like everyone else in the country, is working through and adjusting to in real time.
Berm, he's